important talk about this episode
It
here.
happens.
Well, okay, so I finally caught up with Agatha episode 4, and I assume you saw it yesterday. You're just
I have,
jazzed.
yeah, I watched it. I started watching it before you texted me about the cover ranking, and I finished watching it after, and I have since watched it, I think, 3 more times.
Oh wow, that's you are into this show. I
I
like it. I like it. I
this
don't think
show
I'm
is
into
this
it
show
quite
is my
yet.
shit. So like it
Okay,
is my
okay.
thing.
So we're on the road again after we lost what's her name, Mrs. Hart, and it's basically a wash and repeat of last episode, except for with a new challenge. And I'm wondering, is this the way it's going to be? We're always going to go into a house that
See,
looks like
here's
a different era, or
it 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 seems to be going that way. I think this is probably
hey,
the
Dark Admiral.
weakest of the episodes so far.
Mhm.
Just because it really feels like this should have been 2 episodes, not one. There should have been one episode where they're mourning Mrs. Hart and dealing with their personal issues, and then summoning Aubrey Plaza's character, and then the second episode should have been the
But
fire trial. Because
so
what ends up happening here in this episode is there's about a third of the episode where they're just mourning Mrs. Hart and dealing with the repercussions from that, and then they summon Aubrey Plaza's character, and then that's a thing, and then at the end there's more personal stuff after the trial's over, and it kind of shortchanges the actual trial part because
it does in a lot of ways. First, hello to Dark Admiral, hello to Parasocial and Cartoons and Comics. By the way, Cartoons and Comics, we know they're middle-aged women. Frankly, I'm that age and I don't mind, so I don't need to hear about that again. All right. That being said, they do the morning bit and they bring Aubrey Plaza in to take her place, and I got to tell you, it changed nothing. I actually, first of all, love looking at Aubrey Plaza, but this is, I got to tell you, I prefer the character of Mrs. Hart because she was the every person. I get the feeling that Teen or whatever his name is, he's not an everyman. He's not the question asker, but she was also a sense of humor for the show, which this episode shows they truly need.
I feel like a lot of the other characters have their comedic moments, so I don't need there to be a solely comic relief character like Mrs. Hart.
I would have liked to have had the conspiracy theory for Mrs. Hart to find
And
out
I,
that she was an Earth magician. She just didn't know.
I think they will bring her back at some point, because there's a part of the Witch's Road song where it's like, if one be gone, we carry on with spirit as our guide, which I think is supposed to imply that one of them needs to die to lead the rest out of one of the trials. And I
Now,
think that's going to be where she comes back in.
here,
My thing, though, I liked Aubrey Plaza's like sinister overtones, because she is giving off villain vibes so hard it's not
yeah,
even freaking funny.
I did appreciate her dress. Just saying.
Yeah, but
Hold on. This is the first episode Parasocial was disappointed in instead of pleasantly surprised. I don't think I was disappointed. It flatlined, and for that I could say, okay, considering the other three were kind of climbing a mountain that I couldn't wait to see the peak of. This one plateaued. You know, it didn't go down. It just plateaued. Yeah.
Like I was saying, I think the I think this content would have been better served if it was split into 2 episodes.
You may be right about that.
One of them mourning Mrs. Hart and conjuring up Aubrey Plaza, and then dealing with the repercussions from that, and then do the fire episode.
What it reminds me of is like later Game of Thrones episodes. You know, in the first season, second season, third season, where it took them episode after episode after episode to travel somewhere, and then in the later episodes they just got there. That's how this episode felt. Now, hold on. I want it every time I've been talking, you jump in. I know you're excited about this, but just let me in here.
Sorry.
So when they do get to the trial and we find out that it's the curse, they set up the curse with the little rock and roll girl, and this is her challenge. This is the way she's got to be, and they learned,
Yeah,
okay, we need to
specifically,
watch each
she is
other's
the
back.
protection witch, and they were supposed to be focusing on magical protection, which is
I
another
didn't.
way in which I think this episode is inferior to the previous episode, because they actually went into some detail that made me go, "Oh, somebody did their homework." Whereas in this one,
Mhm.
they barely even touched the surface of the concept of magical protection, and I
Yeah.
kind of resent it for that.
I gotta say, I also like the fact that they use the song as the magic because I think you could get into your head that magic is just people boo, ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo,
Yeah.
shoo-ka-doo-ka-doo. Compare the first few movies to the last couple of movies of Harry Potter where they
Mhm.
were conjuring up spells and you saw like Dumbledore and the bad guy
Voldemort.
Voldemort, and they're in the Ministry of Magic, and they're water dragon, fire dragon, doing all sorts of stuff. And then at the end, they're just fireball, fireball, fireball.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. This is. I love the fact that they used a song because it reminded me that a lot of magic that I have seen is all words and incantation and hand movements and so forth and
Well,
so
I
on.
mean, the idea of magic being performed by song is
Mhm.
older than the hills, because um, they're specifically what you could call the Greek Book of the Dead, which is the Orphic hymns, and they are specifically songs that are meant to be magical. And in the Irish and British Isles, um, most of the time, especially in the medieval period, much of the role of the druid got kind of absorbed by the bard and the troubadour. So the idea of magic as song is not pulled out of their ass, so to speak.
And that, by the way, is why I like talking this show with you because of your religion. You actually study this
Yeah,
stuff.
I am a
Um,
practicing
so
occultist, and I
yeah,
have been for 18 years.
it's good to know. It's good to know you have that particular insight. But I've got to agree with what Parasocial is saying. He says I was disappointed in the Fire Channel challenge. Excuse me. I didn't think anything was original or not original enough, and I'm getting a bit tired of the song. And this is it's exactly what I thought. Maybe if it was a new song, because at this point, yeah, we kind of I get that they need to keep reminding you of the lyrics because one set of lyric is going to lead
Because
to
the
this
lyrics are
challenge, and
important,
this one is
and
going to
there are
be
the
the
titles of the
yeah,
episodes.
yeah. So each lyric of the song is a different challenge and everything. So I get it, but the thing is they need to kind of oompa loompa it.
Yeah,
Hold on, wait, let me finish. Okay,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. If you don't know what I mean, and I guess you got it right away, is that was the same freaking song, different lyrics. Oompa
Hmm.
loompa doompa dee doo, and then it would be if you if you what is it? You guzzle down sweets, eating as much as an elephant eats, and then it goes on. Veruca Salt did not have the same lyrics as Augustus Gloop, and maybe for like it could be the same music, but they have to have different lyrics to keep it fresh and new or something along those lines.
I felt the lyrics were different enough that it was fine. My issue was probably the most like mechanically interesting part of this episode was the fact that um Alice's mother, the singer,
Mhm.
Lorna, I think, um you rewrote the Ballad of the Witch's Road to change it mechanically and make it into a protection spell. And describing how that worked was, to me, the most interesting part of the episode, because if you remember at the start of episode 2, Agatha talks about within a 3-mile radius there will be people who are witchy enough to constitute a coven. And essentially what happened was Lorna took that principle and amplified it, and she also took the when witches are in proximity to each other, they amplify each other's spark, and amplified it, and also piggybacked off the magic of the road itself, the kind of liminal energies of the road, to um, weave a web of protection around her daughter. And for a second there, I was like, how in the heck are you going to tether that to her? And then I remembered the tattoo from the last episode. That's the anchor spell. so
Okay.
that the web
Now,
continues as long as that song is being played and used by people who are witchy enough to use Agatha's language.
Cartoons and Comics brings up a decent point about how maybe why the show is not so popular and everything. We know, and a lot of normies would know Agatha because of, if they saw, I should say,
WandaVision.
WandaVision.
Yeah.
But even in comic book world, Agatha Harkness was not well known.
She's niche. Yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't. She was in a few few issues of Fantastic Four, but she's not a huge character. At the very least, Madam Web had gotten her own freaking cover and a couple of decent stories in
Yeah,
storyline in
and she
Spider-Man.
was a big
Agatha is not
fixture in.
this. So it may be that some people need to see a more famous. Of course, what he brings up is not going to be famous to the normies either, with Magia or Lyra or anything like that. But and frankly, I'm the opposite of that. I don't want to see Superman and Batman all the time. Give me Booster Gold. Give me the smaller character. I'm
right there with
who
you.
knows them. Yeah, as a comic book fan, I want to see the smaller characters on the big screen.
And honestly, I thought that Kathryn Hahn's performance as Agatha was, as I've said many times, basically the only reason to watch WandaVision when all was said and done. Obviously, we disagree on that, but for me, Agatha in episode 8, when she's giving Wanda the fundamentals, as she puts it, of witchcraft, and also doing kind of the Ghost of Christmas Past thing with her memories, that is the best episode of WandaVision in my opinion. So I was ready, willing, and able to buy into an Agatha Harkness show as long as Kathryn Hahn was doing the character.
Well,
and I do like that they still haven't done the bait and switch of, well, she's misunderstood and an anti-hero derp.
Yeah,
because
hopefully she still remains a villain.
The
whole thing is Aubrey Plaza has been brought in to be the baddie, to make Agatha look good. It's if you're writing a story about a villain and you want people to
you have to find a bigger bad.
You have to bring in somebody who's even worse. Parasocial's asking, can you explain, and I'm leaving this one to you, the outbursts of Patti LuPone? She gives a couple of lines. Yeah.
Pretty much as soon as we were introduced to her in episode 2, it's shown that her future sight or her mediumship, whichever way you want to put it, is involuntary. Because, for example, when she was automatic writing the coven name, she was surprised and annoyed that she was on it when Agatha pointed out that she was on it. And I think what's going on here is that either spirits are using her body as a vessel, i.e. mediumship, or she has kind of involuntary second sight where she can see the future, but it's more like epilepsy or schizophrenia where she's not actually 100% aware all the time that she does it. I think that's what we're supposed to gain from this. And I think specifically in this episode, when they're looking at Lorna's portrait in the fire challenge house, it might actually be Alice's mother Lorna who possessed Lydia for a second there.
I wondered because if it was just me or not, but did the curse ends up having a body at the end? They bring it forward.
Yeah, it's not just a passive layer of energy or misfortune that's been cast at them.
Did it look like a demonic version of what's her name's the rock and roller? Did it look like her mother embodied in demon form, or
a little bit? The connection my brain made was to 1957's Night of the Demon, if anyone remembers that one. Yeah, the Bat Demon from that movie, which is a great movie, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen it, very much resembled this demon. And yeah, from what we gather in this episode, the curse wasn't just a layer of negative energy or a binding or something. It was literally someone's synced or struck a demon on that
they
family.
say it was a generational curse, and it seems that it went from woman to woman down the line. And I thought, to me, of course, once again, that's why I was asking you if you saw the same thing. But to me, it looked like it could have been her mom or her grandmother or any of the number of women or a combination of that had held the curse before, or some sort of element of each woman as
I
it was
didn't
passed
I
down to
didn't
him.
see that. Now that you mention it, I can kind of see where you saw that.
Mhm.
But again, my brain immediately went to the Bat Demon from 1957's Night of the Demon, because that was very much kind of the vein that they went with. And since I am the guy who knows shit about demonology, I think what what we're supposed to see there is what's known as an imp, or
Mhm.
sometimes a yattering.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I got from it. That's what I took from it. It looked like the mom. I guess Ethereal Dragon is saying the same thing. Um, and cartoons, they wouldn't bring in the X-Men. The X-Men, bringing in the X-Men to the Marvel Universe is going to be a whole special thing.
It's going to
Making
be an
it
arc in and of itself, and I
making it
really
as
don't want.
Guardian is that's a different kind of magic. So I wouldn't even
And and
put them
and
in the
and
same thing.
frankly, I am terrified by the notion that they're going to undercut Mystic Marvel by making everyone who uses magic a mutant or something. So
That would
please,
suck.
for the love of God, don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. It, in
Let
all
Mystic
honesty,
Marvel be Mystic Marvel. Let mutants be
if
mutants.
if I was Feige, I would start separating everything. I would start because for some reason everybody's got it in their head. Not no, it's not for some reason. Marvel
They
trained us this way.
set it.
Hold
They
on.
set it up as such. Yeah.
What he should start doing is okay. They should start telling a story within the magic world. They should starting a story with what's become known as the Defenders: Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, so forth, so on. And they
Mhm.
should start an Avengers. And these are the different stories. They're not all. You don't have to watch everything to understand this story. But these shows right here and these movies right here are going to tell one story. These over here, and start getting Marvel to be a studio rather than a franchise. Marvel should have never been counted as a studio. It's always or a franchise. It's a studio. Cap Marvel or is the franchise. Captain. I was about to correct myself. No, that's DC.
Yeah. Captain
Thor.
America,
Captain
etc.
America is a franchise. Marvel's
Doctor
not a
Strange is a
franchise.
movie franchise. Blade
Yeah,
hopes to one day again be a movie franchise, etc., and so on.
you do
And
that, and when you have Marvels or you have what was the other bomb that hit? I guess Agatha
Eternals.
has not been doing. Yeah, but if you have an Eternals, you can separate it from the other shows, and then a bomb gets to be a bomb and a hit gets to be a hit. Same with every other studio except for Eternals, because the Eternals put a big freaking robot in the middle of an Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they utterly did. They literally did the
yeah,
opposite of everything they should have done with the Eternals.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
but that's
actually,
not that's
hold
neither
on.
here nor there.
I know we're going off course here, but I got to say, Parasocial, Shang-Chi was not a bomb. It wasn't a breakout hit, but also what it was the first movie that told everybody it's okay to go into theaters again. It's okay to go on.
Yeah, it was
And
monumentally bad timing for
yeah,
Shang-Chi, unfortunately.
so it wasn't a huge bomb, but at the very least, you could say that movie was what opened the door. It might have opened
Yeah,
it a little
most
bit.
of
And then Spider-Man comes along and just bursts it
and
open.
just blew
Yeah.
open the door entirely and almost cracked 2 billion.
I'll tell you what though, you can tell. I mean, even with our reviews, I'm always the easy one. I can see the good in movies a lot easier than most people actually.
Yeah, I tend to be
Uh,
more harsh.
my wife is probably harsher than you on movies. The best review she usually gives is it's all right. And we came out of Shang-Chi. I was like, it's all right. She goes, oh my gosh, that was really good.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, for
Yeah, go
example,
figure.
I'm usually not the gung ho positive one, but this show is very much up my
Yeah.
alley, so
I am so
I
far
tend to be more positive to it than I
I am
probably
so
maybe
far
even should be.
entertained. I have been liking it. This one, you and Ethereal Dragon attach yourselves to this one. That's fine. That's great. I'm glad you guys love it. For me, it was all right. I didn't hate it. I do have one huge question, and there is no answer to it. There is no good answer to this other than because the name's on the title.
Explain.
Okay, you are about to do a musical number. All right.
Yes.
In one corner, you have what's her name playing Agatha Harkness.
Catherine Hahn.
Okay. Right next to her, you got Patty fucking LaPone. Why
and she
the
didn't sing in the episode.
I play cymbals. No, you're the biggest freaking Broadway star in the last 50 years. Why are you not singing this shit?
And frankly, they all should have been singing. It shouldn't have been a solo vocal part.
Well, I heard.
But that's
the black lady has a good voice as well. I guess the Asian girl had a good voice. The one.
Yeah, she came in at the end there and surprised me actually with how good her vocals were.
But if Patti LuPone wanted to beat them down vocally, she could.
Yeah, no, it would have taken all of 5 seconds.
We're talking about Black Canary. We're talking about maybe what's her name? The Banshee's daughter. We're talking about Siren, and they're all going against Patti LuPone, who was in Black Bolt. That's it. Right there,
no, seriously. Yeah. Patti LuPone is one of the greatest musical talents in Broadway history.
So that is actually one thing I had about what? Why are you not having Patti LuPone sing this?
I assume because the next episode is going to be the divination trial episode. One assumes. Because they've been setting up that she has some dark history being victimized by witch hunters and so on. Mm-hmm. Pretty much since her first episode, which I think was episode 2. So I assume that Patti LuPone is going to get to act her, posterior off in the next episode, where we're going to go hopefully a little bit darker than this episode. Which, again, this is by far the weakest episode of Agatha all along so far for me. That doesn't mean I didn't have fun with it, which I did. That doesn't mean that it's bad or anything. It just means that I genuinely think that most of the problems with it were a pacing issue, where you should have devoted an entire other episode to grieving Mrs. Hart and conjuring up Aubrey Plaza and dealing with all that personal shit, and then done the fire episode in the same way you did the water episode last week, where we actually got to delve with some depth into it. Because let me tell you 2 things. One, that is the most piddly-ass circle I have ever seen anyone draw in my life. And I've been at this, like I say, for 18 years. 2, if you were going to go deep in the weeds on something, you should have made it magical protection. Because magical protection is very, very freaking important. For anyone that's never done magic before or has no intention of using it, that's whatever. But to anyone who is first starting out magic, the first thing I always tell people to get involved with is magical protection. You need to protect yourself before you go swimming with the metaphorical piranha here. And there are definitely books that they could have referenced, and definitely stuff within the Marvel Universe they could have referenced. Off the top of my head, the 4 biggest books on magical protection that I would recommend everyone read is Jason Miller's Protection and Reversal Magic, Josephine McCarthy's Exorcist Handbook, Girolamo Mangi's Devil's Scourge, Exorcism in Renaissance Italy, and what the frick is that guy? Augusto Tarantago, I believe, who did Exorcism in medieval in the Middle Ages or something along those lines.
Okay, leave them in the description or in the comments there.
Yeah, but point being, magical protection is very important, and it kind of annoys me how surface level they were with it.
All right. MK is saying, well, Patti LuPone's a lefty who isn't in entertainment. That's the one thing I gotta say. Conservatives do have it over left wing when it comes to entertainment. They get so mad. I mean, look at what happened with Zachary Levi. He says, "Oh, I'm voting for Trump," and everybody's like, "Oh," he said, I've been watching crazy freaking Sean Penn now for 40 years. When was Bad Boys was like 1982, 83. And he's brilliant. I'm not going to take
someone doesn't have to be morally virtuous in order to be good at their job. And when you watch an entertainer, as a general rule, you should view their skills as an entertainer as one thing, and their moral virtues as another thing.
Finish a thought there, but it's basically the same. I was about to say exactly what you just said there. I've been watching. All of them. I think one of the best takedowns on Republicans and conservatives was Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock. He's funny as fuck, and he's making fun of us, but he
Same
does
thing
it
with
well. He does
same
it
thing
so
with
perfectly, you know.
same thing with Ron Swanson in
Oh yeah,
Parks and Rec. He was making fun of us or you
libertarian.
guys because I'm more lefty than most people
Yeah.
here.
Well, he
But
was a
he was
libertarian in
also
that.
one of the most based characters of the show.
Yeah, and the thing is he made the most sense, and that's what I really think is funny. Is that the character that makes the most sense is the one that represents the mostly conservative and libertarian politics and such. So it never really bothers me too much. I mean, if somebody does something horrendous,
Reprehensible, then by all
then
means.
I can't do
But
it. Like I don't think if Whoopi Goldberg decided to be in a dramatic movie, I couldn't do it again. I can't watch it. I thought she was brilliant. She deserved her Oscar or her Oscar nomination. Did she win for Color Purple? She was amazing in that movie. But I don't
I
think I
don't
could
think
watch
she
her.
won, but she was
She
nominated.
won for Ghosts, but I don't
Yeah,
think I could actually watch her ever again in any kind of movie and take her seriously after I seen her say some of the dumbest shit in the universe on The View. So I do think there's a point where an actor or actress or even a director can go overboard where it's like I can't separate the art from the
yeah,
artist
and if you
anymore.
can't separate,
Yeah,
that's fine, but you should at least make an attempt, I think, in general,
yeah.
to
But
separate art from artist.
then there are a lot of people who just keep their mouth shut and keep chugging along as conservatives. Um, and that's just going to happen. We all know it's a bit. We all know it's a bit lefty over there, but so long as they keep doing well. To be fair, Whoopi was great in Next Generation. Yeah, exactly, Maranya. But yeah, that was a while back, and it was kind of the same era. Jumping Jack Flash was a lot of fun, and I mean, you're lying to me if you say that you don't like her as Guinan in Star Trek
Yeah, no,
Generation. Yeah,
that is complete bullshit. Guinan is
yeah.
amazing, and it honestly, if Whoopi Goldberg was going to be known for one role, let it be
Yeah, let it be
Guinan, for God's
Guinan.
sake.
I know, right? Not her, not Ghost. It's Guinan. Yeah. Um, Go figure. For just a little bit, she had us fooled that she was smart.
Well, and that's the thing. I think one of the
Yeah.
biggest problems we have in the modern day is it's not the Oxbridge trained, classically refined actors that we have in today's day and age. Because when somebody like an Orson Welles or a Vincent Price said something about politics, they were speaking in an informed, dignified, intellectual way.
So,
When Adam Sandler or Taylor Swift opens their mouth on something that is far above their pay grade, everyone cringes.
so,
But that's simply due to a lower quality of actors or celebrities in today's day and age.
let me steer this back to what we're talking about. Overall, we'll do a little thing here. Overall, I still enjoy the show. I'm not just because this is a weaker episode. I'm not out. Um, it just I'm hoping it gets back. And you mentioned something also. I really do hope the show goes dark or darker like it was. Uh,
Yeah,
I think it needs to be that.
I think it had its moments. I think if, like I say, if you split the fire trial episode and the Mourning Mrs. Hart and Conjuring Aubrey Plaza part of the episode into two different episodes, they would have had more time to
Yeah.
develop both of them. But as is, just because this is the weakest episode so far doesn't make it bad. It doesn't make it unentertaining because it was entertaining as shit. And the main reason why it failed, where last week's episode and the week before's episode succeeded, is because they were trying to cram 2 episodes worth of content into one episode. And that's hard to do
Could be.
regardless.
Let's see. Not sure who else agrees, but even though John Schneider doesn't do much in Hollywood, well, he's conservative. He is still the best John Kent. I do agree with that. By the way, will you do a cast about the Penguin? I would love to talk about the Penguin. I'm just waiting for somebody to catch up.
I am sorry. We will get to it probably after Agatha is over because this is my shit.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to pop up and just talk about the Penguin on my own.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have been on the high of Agatha all along, pretty much since it started, and I'm hoping that it doesn't do anything terrible to ruin itself for me in the interim. But yeah, right now, most of my free time for watching TV and shit is taken up by rewatching Agatha over and over.
Dude, get to the Penguin. What's better, Penguin or Agatha? Okay, that's apples and oranges, by the way.
Yeah,
And
they are
yes,
completely different shows. I am sure Penguin is great. I have heard a lot of good things about it, but Agatha
okay.
is right at the dead center of my Venn diagram of Marvel comics type shit and mystical shit.
So
This
here's the
is
thing.
my thing, and it's the perfect time for it because it's coming up on Halloween shortly here. So
I don't believe in the whole you can't compare apples to oranges. Oranges are spherical and they're orange. Apples not quite so spherical and they're red. It's very easy to compare apples and oranges. That being said, these are two different shows. I do enjoy Penguin more than I do Agatha. That's
and
just
and, and
that's
from what I've
in
heard, it's
my
excellent.
wheelhouse.
But
In my
I
wheelhouse.
this is just my bailiwick entirely. So I'm kind of
Um,
I'm obsessing over it not just because it is definitely in my Venn diagram, but also because I see so many people whining and bitching about it for very flimsy
we
reasons.
you and I watched what's his name, Ryan Kinnell, and who was it? They were talking about this. They didn't watch it.
Yeah,
We saw what they were saying. We're like, you didn't watch
you were not
that.
paying attention to the thing you were allegedly watching. And I
Yeah,
have the same thing kind of with Multiverse of Madness too. Most of Gary's review of Multiverse of Madness was
we
asking
weren't
very
watching
obvious
it.
questions that would have been obvious had he actually paid attention to the
Yeah,
movie he was watching.
it's funny when if you actually do watch something and somebody gives a review, they did like. Did you ever see Thinking Critical's review of Prey, and you could tell it was all the trailer? I was like, come on, man, at least watch
I
the
don't
fucking thing.
I
Yeah.
don't think I ever did. I really like a guy by the name of The Little Platoon because he goes in depth on basically
Mhm.
everything he watches, so you know that he actually watched the thing he watched rather than
Dude, yeah.
not
But
deliberately not paying attention and then asking the movie or show a bunch of questions that would have been obvious to literally everyone who's seen the thing if you actually pay attention to the thing.
so Maranya is asking cartoons and comics. I agree. Cartoons, I've said it many times. Don't. First of all, yeah, you got Aubrey Plaza in there if you need younger eye candy or something. And what's her name that plays Agatha? Catherine Hahn. She
Catherine
is
Hahn.
not. She is not an ugly lady.
No,
You know.
she's
And
quite
so,
pretty, and particularly when they were all dolled up in their like 70s, 80s gear in this episode,
why do you need a
they
younger
wore them
witch just to
well.
appeal to the cheesecake demographic? If you need a younger witch, go watch Charmed. I've never seen an episode, by the way, but they're three very attractive women. I mean, you don't need all movies don't need to star 20 somethings and look like it needs to be on the CW.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have seen an inordinate amount of Charmed, and one episode notwithstanding, it mostly sucks. The one episode that doesn't suck is the
But
Halloween episode because they actually do their homework for once.
but they're hot, and that's all that matters. See, I can't get into
Uh-huh.
that. The people who are right for the character are right for the character. There you go.
And
That's
I think Catherine Hahn is an excellent choice to play Agatha Harkness.
for what they're
Granted,
doing.
it's a
Yeah,
slightly different version than Agatha Harkness that we get in the
doesn't
comics,
bother me. Doesn't bother
but
like well, going.
she made Agatha Harkness iconic in the same way that RDJ does with Iron Man or Matt Ryan did with Constantine, I think.
We saw Joker tonight. I'm not going to give a review. I want to do that an entire show, but we saw Joker tonight, and it's not the story of the comic book Joker. Obviously, if you saw the first movie, you know it isn't for the
Yeah.
second movie.
It obviously took some inspiration from Killing Joke and King of Comedy, but yeah, it's its own animal.
The thing is, yeah, absolutely. So this doesn't have to look, it doesn't have to feel, it doesn't have to be the comic book Joker we know and love. Gail, after we saw it, excuse me, asked me who did better or who was the better Joker, Heath Ledger, because she knows I love The Dark Knight, or
as do most people who have seen it, but
or Joaquin Phoenix, who of course plays the Joker in the two movies here. And I said, two different animals. I mean, absolutely two different animals. I don't see Heath Ledger doing what Joaquin Phoenix did.
The best
Hold on, let me finish. Sorry. And then I don't see Joaquin Phoenix being able to really nail Heath Ledger's role as well as he did. These are two different animals. And the way I put it was the Batman, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker was created by his environments, created by the elements of life that
society.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight Joker was created by Batman. So they came from two different places. So being two different actors, being two different things in atmospheres, so forth, so on, absolutely makes sense. And this is the way with Agatha. You could not do comic book Agatha and have this show be the same, because comic book Agatha looks to be about 70 and it just wouldn't fit. So you needed somebody younger, but you didn't want them so young that they looked like
they couldn't convincingly be the character.
They could not have the same knowledge, or they would not look like they had the same knowledge that they had gathered. With Agatha is supposed to be a not very knowledgeable witch. She's supposed to be somebody who's been around the block and knows all the tricks. So if you cast a young girl, if you cast a 20-something, it wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't look right.
People aren't going to buy it,
because that 20-something has to command the respect of all of the other witches. So
yeah, and by the way, on the topic of Agatha knowing or looking like she knows what she's talking about, I think Agatha Harkness, at least before this show, was the best written magic user character, because as I mentioned in our review of the first two episodes, she was, I think Teen makes the list now too, but she was the only magic user character, and yes, this does include Doctor Strange and it does include the Ancient One. She was the only magic user character I feel like I could actually sit down and have a technical magical conversation with. And that's kind of sad when you consider that the Ancient One's understanding of magic was literally just one line about comparing it to a programming language. And that's kind of sad. Whereas Agatha, in episode 8 of WandaVision, had basically an entire episode where she went, "Oh, how are you so powerful without knowing literally anything about magic? Here, let me run you through the fundamentals." Yeah. And that makes her, in my opinion, the best written magical character in the entire show, because she actually sounds like she vaguely understands what she's talking about.
Well, we are getting dangerously close to having a review show last as long as the episode. So
it happens.
Let's get the wrap up on this. Once again, I thought it was the weakest episode so far, but still entertaining, which says something about the ones beforehand.
Yeah, I think it was still fun, and most of the issues could have been resolved by just chucking another episode onto the runtime and splitting them. But
I'm okay with. Also, I don't want another 6-episode season of anything. It just doesn't give it enough time. I would not mind them going back to the 24 season.
Yeah,
the way they used to.
13 bare minimum, 24 more average. Yeah.
Yep. But I do agree, though, maybe 24 is too much, because I remember watching Smallville.
There were a lot of filler episodes.
You would have like 4 or 5 filler episodes at least, yeah. That being said, there you go. Okay, we're still fans of the show. You are watching just one time when you're going to watch Agatha, go, Penguin. Okay, and watch enough of it just to fake a conversation.
I will wait until Agatha is over, because this is not only my thing, but it is also my season, because we're in October now.
I'm going to have to jump onto the Penguin on my own there. All righty. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out and listening to us rant and rave about a show that a lot of people seem not to be caring about, but what you going to do? You like what you like, right? That being said, as much as I give you trouble for the Penguin, I haven't continued Has Been Hotel, so
yeah,
there you go.
So we will have to wait until season 2 for Eglinton to get caught up on Has Been Hotel.
Probably. All righty, guys. Thanks for hanging out. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Don't forget to do all the clicking and liking and all that kind of stuff. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys.